All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Investing Club. I hope you guys are having a great day wherever you are. It is Friday here as always, so we're bringing that Friday energy to you. I will say that my daughter got up very early this morning, good old 4 a.m. She's 1.5, so she has her own cycles, and she decided to get dad up at that same time. So, we're running on fumes here, but we're going to have a good episode. We got Julie Holly with us on the podcast. She is from The Conscious Investor. She's done over 1,000 units, 2 decades of investing experience. So there is a lot of wisdom to go into here. There we go. Already tripping up my words. But Julie, I'm super excited to jump into this. Thank you very much for hopping on the show.
So excited to be here with you, Gabe. And guess what? Your daughter is just already she's a high performer,
Yeah,
right?
she's
Like
getting up early.
she's
Wants
in
to
the
get
4
it
a.m.
done.
club. She's like, hey, dad, get with the program. Like, we got stuff to do.
Slacking, buddy. Come on. All right. Well, I told you before we got on here, we always like starting with stories to hear how you got to where you are. I'm sure you got a good one. You've been in this game for over 2 decades, so I'm sure it started definitely. It looked different when you started. So take us to the
Oh my God.
beginning. Tell us, how'd you get into real estate?
I am the inadvertent investor like many other people, and I began investing before house hacking was called house hacking. But and this will hopefully be really encouraging to anyone who feels like they're caught in the margins of any kind. Actually, recently I was caught in the fraud space where someone hacked into my accounts and stole money from me. That's not
Oh,
fun.
that
Um,
sucks.
so we could do that in that regard. But back in my early 20s, I found myself in an abusive marriage.
Mm,
And it was a bad situation. And I was a brand new school teacher making $27,000.
Jeez.
And I took a brave step to like stand up and be courageous for myself. And I had an amazing attorney who's like, I'm getting the house for you. I'm like, I don't care. I just want to be safe. So she gets this house for me that we just bought, a house where the toilet was sinking in the subfloor, it was a DIY house, but I
Yeah.
got the house and a lot of sweat equity later and a lot of, hey, rent the room out and house hack later. I discovered the beauty of, wow, I have equity. And I was blessed to find my junior middle school sweetheart, like someone I had a crush on. We ended up
Nice.
getting married and we decided we wanted to just build an investment portfolio. We didn't know we were going to become real estate investors. We just said, hey, let's build an investment portfolio of single family houses so we can help people. And ultimately it's grown into, we want to help people in the middle class where they don't qualify for low income or section 8 or something like that, but they're caught in the margins. And how do we support them? And we can do that if we own the houses. And so we started building a small portfolio. Fast forward years later with kids, I realized this doesn't feel good. Like, it's a 1-to-1 ratio. This is uncomfortable. If even though we have reserves, we can cover all these mortgages. I'm still
You
not
don't
sleeping
feel
super
free.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it felt like 4 a.m. days every day, like that just little gentle drag. And so my husband's like, hey, why don't you just start researching how you would want to invest in real estate? And that's when I found lots of different strategies. And then I discovered multifamily syndication, which obviously syndication can be used for anything. But in that process, it checked all the boxes. I'm like, everybody wins. And that's what I'd always been raised with. Like, always do business where everyone is coming out ahead. And I fell in love with the model of, I can invest, I can bring investors along, I can provide a great high quality roof over people's heads. That was a service and that supports communities who need quality housing. So I'm like, this is phenomenal. Let's do that. Did the responsible thing, invested passively first, read lots of books, went down the rabbit hole, joined a mentorship program. I'm a firm believer in that, worked with a high performance coach and just really fueled in. So I was like, before I take other people's money, and obviously we're not taking anybody's money, but before we, have them come invest with us, let's get our own experience first in this asset class. And then since then, we've had multiple syndications, primarily in the Midwest. I partner with two very specific companies at this point, and one we invest in multifamily, and the other we invest in assisted living communities. I don't like facilities, although that's the appropriate word. It's just so sterile and gross.
Yeah. I call
And then
self-storage facilities. That makes sense, but assisted living, yeah, community sounds a lot better.
yeah, it's like, is that like some type of asylum or something? Like, no thanks. And then just as we future cast a bit and I see where things are going, I've actually noticed that my investment portfolio is really lopsided. So
Hmm.
we exited from single family where we had full ownership, full control. We went into the syndication model. And now I'm realizing, wait, I'm all heavy weighted over here. And if 25% of our entire investment portfolio is real estate, we also need to subdivide our real estate investing. And so I'm like, okay, so now we're looking actually at going back to our original roots and picking up some small multifamily and building out in that regard for our own personal, this is just us, or maybe with, one other partner, but just building out something else within that real estate investment portfolio. And I mention that because I think that in conversations I've had with other real estate investors, they have said, wow, yeah, that's really true. And a lot of people have shared that sentiment of realizing I'm too heavy in this particular asset class. Like maybe for me, I could be too heavy. I was too heavy on multifamily. I have assisted living in the portfolio now. It would be wise for me to add some self storage in there or some light industrial, right? So it's looking at the investment portfolio instead of saying my way is the right way, but saying how do we balance this and make this really beautiful?
Nice. I like the trajectory of your story there because it mirrors what I hear a lot of people going into. You start out in single family, and on the side there, we never like to hear people go through abuse, but you never know where the silver lining will come from. And it sounds like that it got
Absolutely.
you into real estate because of the house that you got out of the split, which really ultimately led you to where you are today. And so, if anybody is in a hard time, we never like to hear that, but you never know where you're going to find your next silver lining. And so just keep going, and eventually you're going to get out of it. Um, and so your trajectory, single family to limited partner, getting into masterminds, learning as you invested in other people's deals, and then you got into the general partner side, doing syndications. And now you're coming full circle and you're trying to get out of the syndication side and do a little bit more of your own investing. I actually just had Gino on the podcast, and that's exactly what they did. They did syndications, and now they're trying to get out of all syndications and just own them exclusively themselves. So a trajectory that's kind of echoed across a lot of different investors. The mastermind thing I always love to hear because I did a course when I first got started in real estate, but it was from a flipper. And I never really took like a mastermind. I never got into a mastermind, but I wish I did. It's something, learning from other people who are out there doing the work is so beneficial. So I always like to talk to people, that come on the show who have done that about their experience. When you were investing as an LP and you got into masterminds, how did that go? How did it kind of act as a catalyst to get into the GP side?
It was really, really important. So I am very much a risk taker when it comes to my own life. When it comes to incorporating other people, my risk threshold drops
Yeah, me
like
too. I'm just like, I can't
remarkably.
lose any money.
I'm like, I'll invest in crypto. I'll try an e-commerce store. I'll do these things for me. But like when it comes to bringing investors in, it's like, no, no, no.
Yeah.
I will not sleep at night, and I have a strong sleep at night policy. So I'm like, I won't sleep at night if I lose people's money. So that's not an option. So going in, I think it's interesting. I invested with a really large, prominent, well-known name company as an LP and such on the first one, and with that, I didn't gain so much the line of sight in the details in the weeds of it. But what I did gain was what I needed because I knew I'd be on the investor relations side of things. I have a
Mm,
background in, as I mentioned, in being a public school teacher. And so
mm,
it's like I love, my heart is really communicating and supporting people and educating people. So I'm like, I didn't have to think about what role I wanted. I don't want to be an asset manager. Like
yeah.
that's not my zone of genius or where I can do it, but it's not going to bring joy in my life in the way that investor relations. So investing as an LP really allowed me to feel all the feelings. And then because I was investing, with Super Rad Steve, my awesome husband, it was a matter of us, going through that process together of how are we choosing our investment? How do we know that's the right thing? Oh, wow, we wired this money. That feels really crazy because do we really know we did the right? And so really the whole purpose of our passive investing was to gain that internal experience that all first time passive investors are going to go through. Like
Hmm.
you can't invest passively and be like, yeah, here's this huge chunk. I mean, like it's a chunk of money here.
Yeah.
It
Fifty
seems that
thousand
way, but
dollars. Yeah.
it's an investment, like 50, 100, like you're looking at a chunk of money that you're placing with someone that you really are hoping that you chose well on, right? And so I really valued that experience. Going into a paid mastermind situation was really important to us. We evaluated. So even though my husband wasn't going to be in the business with me, one of the most important things we did was we said we both want to be on the same page.
Mm,
And I said, I want to go down this path and I want to be able to discuss this with you. We both
mm-hmm,
understand real estate. He's been a broker on the residential side for 15 years. Like we both know real estate, but we didn't know this type of real estate. And
mm,
so we actually went to events together, not because that was going to be his, like, I'm doing this full time, but just so that he could be my checks and balances. He could meet the same people. And we had then his intuition at play and mine, where we could both talk about, like, well, how does that person resonate with you? And how does this? And so it just created a different dynamic on those discussions. So I highly recommend, even if your spouse is not going to be in your business, like your spouse knows you and your tendencies better than any other human on the planet. And so invite them along and listen to what they are saying. So
yeah.
that was like a huge element. I'll pause.
No, I love that you said that because not many people bring up spouses when they come on the show. It's usually just talking about their own investing, but I think it's so important to really be on the same page. And if you can, even if your spouse has their own job or is doing something else, to at least bring them along in the conversation. My fiance, she is a finance manager at a big company, so she knows finance, and so I brought her in to help with QuickBooks and stuff like that for my business, and for us to be able to have that common language where she understands what my business is doing, and we're able to talk about these investments that I'm getting into. It really does. It makes a huge impact on both parties, because now she clearly understands where we're going and what my vision is, and how we're moving forward, and we're able to have those discussions. So I like to hear you kind of espousing bringing your spouse in, talking with them, making sure that we're on the same page, even if they're not really taking a role in the business, to at least have them along with you.
Yeah, it's important. And I'll just double, like, on the mastermind side of things, I I was in a group of like minded people of various levels of experience. So I had people shoulder to shoulder just getting in a sense, the same cohort. And then there were people that had massive levels of experience. And one of those, it was assigned as my specific mentor.
Mm,
That became a very deep, like meaningful friendship, like trusted guide. Like I ran every deal by him for like a long time, just like, can I get your blessing? Like because the challenge was there. And so it was absolutely invaluable. And I highly recommend doing that. It to me, putting that amount of money, we dropped 20 grand into a program. And now I know those programs are a lot more, but putting that type of, and I'm not saying you have to, listener, I'm not saying you have to put 20 grand in. I'm just throwing that out there because a lot of times people are like, is it really worth it? But what that did was it accelerated my network of like-minded people, because whatever mastermind you're gravitating towards, you're gravitating there for a reason, as are other people. And so it's easier to find partners. So I have lots of partners that came from that very specific mastermind, and we speak the same, like in a sense, we speak the same dialect. We
Mm.
have this shared common ground, and that has been really instrumental along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Whenever people talk about masterminds, I always do like to give them a shout out. If it's a good one, if you enjoyed it, what was the mastermind that you were in?
I am not going to give a shout out
Okay,
to the
fair enough.
mastermind, only because there are a lot of really good mastermind programs out there and they do change. And
Mm,
so my experience with this program was so many years ago that
mm.
I'm not actually sure that someone would have that same experience.
Okay.
And I used to openly endorse it. And then I realized, wow, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
and, and I'm not really invested in the group to a point to where I can understand, like, where I feel like, yeah,
Yeah.
everybody
No,
go
no, no.
here.
I think that's responsible and I understand. But if you guys are looking for masterminds, there are good ones out there, and do it with do your due diligence, make sure that it is a
Mhm.
good mastermind to go into, talk to people who have been in there, talk to people who are currently in there. But if you do find a good one, they're definitely worth it because it can give you that camaraderie. It can give you a mentor, just like Julie had in her mastermind. So definitely worth the investment. I'm going to move us on a little bit because we are running through our clock. You mentioned assisted living. That is not something that people often talk about on this podcast. So let's jump into it. Why did you decide to invest in assisted living? And then just tell us a little bit about the asset itself. I don't know anything about it, so you can be schooling me on this one.
It's a very complicated asset class, and it's not for everyone. In fact, we're currently prepping to close on a acquisition that is coming, that we're purchasing from an investment group that thought it would be quick money. That's my impression.
Mm, mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
since nobody knows who or what I'm talking about, I'm like, yeah, it kind of, I'm under the impression they thought, hey, this is going to be a great asset class. It's going to cash flow. Multifamily is too competitive, so we're going to go here, and they got worked over. So
Yeah.
it is, and that is how my partners discovered it. They said, wow, multifamily is fiercely competitive. Where can we find some, a strong investment opportunity? And initially, they also got beat up a bit on their first couple of deals. And that happened because there's a steep learning curve. I'll explain in just a moment. My company joined in with them on their third acquisition. And that was actually a relationship by way of that mentorship program. So
Mm-hmm.
we've known each other for years. Um, I've always wanted to be involved with assisted living because, again, go back to the heart thing. Like, I
Mm.
care about people and want to support people. Um, and so that appealed to me. However, my mentor always steered me away from that, because now we'll get into the details. When you buy assisted living, you are buying the real estate and you
The
are buying
business.
a business.
Yeah.
And so, most people think, oh, great, it's going to be easy. We'll make a lot more money. Well, when you purchase 100-unit multifamily property, or a self-storage unit, facility or something, like, you're not having to, your overhead is really low. I mean, on the apartment complex, like, okay, I'm going to have a property manager, I'm going to have a maintenance person. I'm like, you're really not managing a lot of people.
Yeah.
You purchase 100, they're actually not
Bed.
units, they're beds, right? So
Yeah.
you purchase 100 beds in a assisted living community, and now you've just acquired a staff of, probably 60, 70 people. You're
Wow.
acquiring, like,
I did not know
you're
that.
you are acquiring a massive staff. You're acquiring the residents who actually need that staff as their support. And now you're running a business that is also integrated in with the healthcare system. And
Mm-hmm.
so now you're having to actually negotiate daily rates with,
Mm.
with the
Insurance
government agencies
companies.
and
Yeah, yeah,
insurance
yeah.
companies. So you have to have a lot of different acumen going into it that if you don't already understand that, you will have a fierce learning curve, and it will monopolize all elements of your life.
I understand that they're, just going through my own experience with assisted living facilities, my grandma, and people in my family.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that there are different kind of levels of assisted living. Some of them require to have, certified nurses on staff. Some of them don't. Is there a
Mm-hmm.
specific, I guess, sub asset within assisted living that you enjoy investing in more, or tell us specifically what kind of your buying criteria is.
Yeah, so we are not a nursing home.
Okay.
So this isn't like the highest level of care where you have IVs, going into people and heart rate monitors and such, right? So however, our residents, generally this is their last stay. They generally stay 2 to 3 years. And so you do have an attrition rate. And so you have to be very comfortable. Just I'm putting this out there for you, listener. Like you have to be comfortable under like with death and
Mm,
with the transition of life,
mm,
as we'd rather call it, right? So I mean, like
yeah.
people are transitioning, and that's the reality of it, and you need to be comfortable with that. We generally like to hover in the space where we have one RN that is running a whole entire unit and overseeing that unit, and then we can have CRNs and support staff beneath that.
Wow.
We are in our newest acquisition, we actually have part of it is actually even more simplified than that. And I'm not going to get into the acronyms and such because it won't make it'll be better to explain that the one campus is split into two campuses, our new acquisition. And this actually has an elevator. It has residents that can come and go on their own. Now they're not driving, but they are more capable. So it's not like they're incapacitated, that they have to have constant support. And that's really what happens. Like in the facilities that we purchase, I like to say in a very kind way, it's like caring for a toddler, right? So
Mm-hmm.
as you know,
I know that
when your
side.
daughter is just another, year and a half old, like she's going to be running and she's going to be walking around and mobile, right?
Mm,
She's capable, even if someone's in a wheelchair, they're capable of getting around. But your daughter's still going to need support as she bathes. She's going to need support in having proper meals and proper nutrition. And if she does get sick and she needs even some homeopathic type thing, she needs guidance and support in taking care of her health and making sure that's okay. And that's really the type of care that we provide. But what I love about this is that we're also providing the community, and
mm,
humans are designed and created for community and connection. And so we have common spaces and we create, every building has a legit, like, these are the activities that we're offering for this week. And these are ways for you to connect. And I love going to visit our communities because you see the engagement amongst the residents, and that's something when my grandfather was at a residential assisted living facility, which people love turning in a single family home into one of those. And yeah, they're cash cows. They totally are. But what I noticed when I'd take my kids to visit Gramps is the other residents weren't lucid.
mm.
They weren't, cognitively where my grandpa was. He really would have
So
done better in an assisted living community, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
so he declined, I believe, faster than he would have in a well-run community.
yeah. Yeah, my grandma, she's passed away since, but when she was in a facility, she's so social, and she's like a 4 foot. Well, when she was in her 90s, she died. I think she was 96, and she just kept shrinking. So she was like this little girl that was just going around talking to everybody. So having that community, I totally understand that is so important, especially in your older years. You
Yeah.
mentioned that whenever you buy these facilities, you are also buying the business. Is there also, I guess you could call it triple net. Would you buy a facility and then have another operator come in and run the business, or is really the only option to buy the facility and run it yourself?
You could absolutely do that. We do not do that.
Mm,
So we are vertically integrated, and so we actually take care of all the management infrastructure, everything in house. We did, and this is not triple net lease style, but when my partners first entered the space, they actually used a third party management company, and the line of sight and the level of communication, because it if you really want to do assisted living well, you need to be highly involved.
yeah.
And that's what I will say on that is
Yeah.
a third party management company isn't going to have the same heart, care, compassion that you are going to have.
Yeah.
And
I,
that's
well, I
just what
feel
it
that's
is.
true about every asset,
Yeah.
because I've gone through so many different property management companies on in different asset classes, and I just feel like it's always better to be vertically integrated because you care about the customer experience more than that third party company.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's just the case for everything. Sometimes it does make sense to use third party companies, but generally, if you can put it together, it's definitely better to have your own management company to manage the properties. I
Definitely.
am going to cut us off at that point because we're way past our time. But hey, it's my podcast; we can do whatever we want. I'm pushing us into the quick question round, though. This is, as I said, quick question. It starts with a recommendation for education. Education is the first step to getting into real estate. Don't stay there too long, though, you guys. Definitely, you only need so much education before you can go out and just take action. But education is the first step, so we like to get recommendations. We need two recommendations for either general life wisdom or real estate, and it could be books, it could be conferences, mentorship programs, whatever. But we just need two recommendations.
Wow. Okay. I'm gonna recommend a couple of books and then a conference. I'm gonna
Okay.
say I would say picking up a book like Understanding Passive Investors. So my partners, Anthony Vicino and Dan Kruger, have a book called Passive Investing Made Simple. I think that you need to understand, if you're bringing other people on board, understand what their experience is going to be like and how to communicate effectively with them. I still appreciate Michael Blanc's book, Apartment Investing. It has a yellow cover, it's changed titles. It's a great blueprint. And I highly recommend coming to the Conscious Investor Growth Summit as an event because it incorporates the wealth building strategies and the mindset. And here's the thing, I say everybody could be Grant Cardone or whoever you want to poster child this out, to be and have this massive portfolio. It's a space between our ears. That's our reason why we don't have that. And so I would just highly recommend read, learn, and then go do. Yeah, at some
Yeah.
point you have to cut it off. You will make mistakes and it won't be the end of the world. That is
Yeah.
how you will learn and that is how you will grow your portfolio.
Absolutely. Yeah, I always recommend action more than education, although you do need a level of education. Don't stay there too long. Get out there, get a deal done
Yes.
because everybody that comes on the show, I always ask, I can't remember which one it is, but the answer that they give is that they wish they got started sooner. Oh, yeah, it's the next question. And so, uh, we always say if you guys are out there, you're thinking about getting into real estate, just do it. Just go out there, get a deal done. You're not gonna regret it later on. Even if you do, make some mistakes on this first one, you'll take it, and then you'll take that lesson on to the next deal. So I'm just gonna take that
Definitely.
opportunity and lead us into the next question. This is
Sure.
about lessons learned. Not every deal we get into goes the way we expect it. In fact, many times we make a mistake and things go a little haywire. But in those experiences, that's where we learn our greatest lessons, and we get to take that on to the next deal. So, what was the deal that went a little bit sideways for you guys, and then what was the lesson you pulled from it?
This is actually a deal that I'm not a general partner on, but I am involved with, and there's currently a lawsuit against one of the general partners, and
Hmm.
the general partners had to actually invoke a lawsuit. And I'm very involved with this, although I'm not a general partner. And I'm not having to deal with the lawsuit personally and such, but just to be in that proximity, in the orbit of it, it's I've always been particular about my partnerships. Never ever let your guard down when it comes to partnerships. Ever, never doubt yourself. Say no before you say yes when it comes to partners. This whole lawsuit situation is happening because there is a partner that someone just basically said, okay, by way of this person who I have partnered with for years successfully is vouching for this other person. Yeah, I'm gonna no, don't take anybody else's third party. Like, have your own relationships with every partner and make sure you know who they are and what they are about.
Yeah. Yeah. Partnerships are a tricky one. I love investing with other people because it just makes, real estate more fun. It makes it more enjoyable to have partners in deals. But that comes with a caveat because you definitely do need to be aligned in your goals and in your character. If you guys aren't aligned in either of those, then there's going to be problems. So do your due diligence, get into them with your eyes wide open, but don't shut out partnerships because they are. I prefer them. I think they're great, but you can get mixed up in bad ones if things aren't in writing and you guys don't clearly understand exactly who does what, and that you have the same character flaws
The
are definitely the
character
ones.
part,
Yeah.
the character, this guy refinanced the property and did so many things without people knowing. And it's like,
Oof.
how did, like, when I just look at, like, how did all this happen? That is absolutely, it's insane. And
Yeah.
so also understand your operating agreement.
Yes. Yes. Another key element. All right. Next question is about is for your younger self. So let's go back to the Julie who had no experience in real estate. She was just getting started as a teacher way back when. Go back to her, look her in the eye, give her one piece of advice moving forward.
Oh my gosh, believe in yourself. You
Mm.
have you have it within you. And I think if you're listening to this show, you are already pre-qualified just by nature of your DNA. And if you're listening to this show, you already have more information than you need to be doing. It's just a lack of belief and a lack of confidence and courage. And so just step into that future version of yourself and don't worry about what anyone else says. Pick up Michael Gervais' book, First Principles, I think, First Rule of Mastery. It's on FOPO, fear of people's opinions. Like, most of us aren't taking action. In that younger version of myself, I actually got a lot of strength through the difficulties I endured. Gave me a lot of strength to, like, basically say, screw them, like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna do my
Doing
thing,
it.
So, like, believe in yourself, go get it.
Yeah. Good advice. And I will say confidence only comes with action. Going back
Amen.
to what we were talking about earlier, you're not going to feel confident on those first deals. It's going to feel on you're going to feel like you're on shaky ground, but just do it because the more times you do it, the more times you take those reps, you're going to get more and more confident. And you're going to take more action more quickly. Too many mores in those sentences. I'm tired. Anyways, confidence comes from action. Just go out there, get it done. Next question is about the US. It is a big place. There's a ton of opportunity out there. Give me the single metro you're most excited about investing in today.
Oh my gollies. Single. I'm really. What's my do you guys hear the struggle? The struggle is real. Okay.
There's a lot of metros out there.
If I'm talking about appreciation, then
Mm,
I would say North Idaho.
okay.
And I would say, like, the Coeur d'Alene area. The appreciation is going to
Hmm.
be massively strong in that entire area. If
Yeah.
I am talking about cash flow, then I'm heading to my Midwest markets because that's where the cash flow is, but it's not the appreciation. So I'm sorry. I know it's supposed to be
Yeah.
short, but that was tough.
No. It is a hard one. So Midwest, big place. Give me one city that you're really excited about.
This is going to be crazy, but I love Minneapolis and I love investing, especially considering our conversation off air about Washington.
Mm.
But we have a large portfolio in Minneapolis and it performs very well.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of opportunity there. You have
Interesting.
to know how to do it appropriately. Like, you have to understand a lot in order to be able to execute well on that.
Huh. You're the first person to ever mention Minneapolis. That's never come up on this podcast, but
I know.
hey, it's a big city. I'm sure there's a lot of opportunity out there too. So there you guys go. All right, next question is about finding the deal. It all starts with getting in contact with the seller and penning that purchase agreement. So, what is your favorite way to find new deals?
I'm not primarily on the acquisition side when it comes to large commercial real estates. However, on as I'm pursuing small multi at this time, I really believe in the power of sending notes.
Hmm,
And
nice.
um, in the
Like
2011.
written, handwritten notes.
Yes,
Wow.
handwritten
Okay.
notes in the, and I will share this because most people won't take action on this. You and I know that. So if you take action on this, good for you. Our coach in the residential real estate side of life in the mid 2000s, she suggested, and she said, everyone's having massive success with this handwritten note. It just says, "Dear whoever it is, would you consider selling your property at 123 Main Street to me? Sincerely, sign your name, done." And
Simple.
so simple. It's not this big long paragraph that everybody is putting out there. We get these things from people wanting to buy our gorgeous 10-acre property and stuff. Like, nope, it's just super short, sweet, simple, and it
And it
works.
works. That's all that matters.
I will. I'm not going to here. This is a blank page, but on the other side, you could there's a property, and I'm going to
Nice.
send a note because I'm
Yeah.
like, I want to buy that off of them.
I love it. That's funny. Yeah, I've found I've gone like, back and forth about all the different marketing avenues. I've literally done everything when it comes to finding off market deals. And with letters, with physical mail that you send people, I've done lumpy mail, I've done little windowed mail, I've done all the different types of mail. But I have found that the simpler the mailer is, the more effective it is. I've done mailers where I write out this impassionate speech about about me
Right.
being an investor and blah 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 blah. But the simpler you can make it, the more effective it is. And I feel like that, writing a handwritten letter with one line, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, you don't sound like the scam, the person that just somehow scammed. I didn't send money to anybody, someone hacked into my account, but it's like we figured out. And my husband's dealing with some people now on the residential side that could definitely be a wire scam. I'm like, what would their angle be? There are these people that want to buy $2 million properties in North Idaho, and they want to communicate via WhatsApp or something. It's like
WhatsApp.
this.
I never trust people that want to talk on WhatsApp. I'm like, no, no,
Exactly. They
no.
send an email and then they do that. I'm like, what's their angle? And he explained how they could do the wire fraud and stuff. And so I'm like, golly, bad people are out there. So yeah,
Yeah.
short and sweet is way better.
I was duped one time in my life, and I will never forget it. It was only like $400, so it wasn't a lot of money, but
Yeah.
it was just some guy who was on WhatsApp, and he was saying he was going to do marketing for my company. And
Oh,
for some reason,
wow.
I just sent, he said, "Oh, I need this down payment." And so I sent it to him, and then he just never talked to me again. I was like, well, that's a lesson. I'll take that as a lesson. Never make that mistake again.
Never.
All right, that brings us to the last question. This is for the listeners. You've given us a lot to think about. I'm sure people want to reach out, get in contact with you. This is a two-parter. Where can they find you, and then what can they expect when they reach out?
Aw, well, find me over on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. So just look up Julie Holly. You'll see me. And you're going to get a lot of content there. My content, honestly, is not focused primarily on real estate investing. I am also a coach and I help people close the gap between, where they are now into where they want to go. So it's really the wish fulfillment business. And I love that. So you see a lot of the mindset element on throughout my content because there are so many people creating great real estate content like you could like great, but not everyone can create that mindset centerpiece. And so that's where you're going to get that rocket fuel that you need and reach out to me. If you send me a DM, I get a lot of DMs. So just tell me that you heard me on Gabe's podcast so that like I will prioritize that.
Perfect. I will put that link in the show notes. So if you guys want to reach out to Julie, just click the little more in the description. It'll pull down that full description, and in there you can find her links. All right, Julie, that wraps it up. Thank you very much for hopping on the show.
Yeah, thank you, Gabe. This has been a blast.
Absolutely. For everybody who's here with us today, thank you guys for showing up. You are the reason we do this. So if you guys have any questions, reach out to me, Gabe at therealestateinvestingclub.com. If you guys want to support the show, just leave us a review on Apple or whatever you're listening to this on. Other than that, I hope you guys have a great week. I don't know if you can hear my daughter is yelling dad in the background. I don't think it's coming up, but I hope you guys have a great week. Keep rocking real estate, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.